Senator Murry, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Nice to see you, Joyce.
Okay, so much to cover. First, just explain for us the primary reason behind this government shutdown.
Well, for weeks now, Democrats have been telling Republicans, you need to come to the table and talk to us because you need Democratic votes on our continuing resolution. And we want to have a conversation about how we can make sure that thousands, hundreds of thousands of Americans don't lose their health insurance in the coming few weeks. They have refused to talk to us. They didn't want to negotiate. And then they just said, vote for whatever we send you and let's move on. That is not how this works. We need to have a conversation. The president himself, John Thune, who's a majority leader in the Senate, and Speaker Johnson can't just expect us to give them our votes because that's what they want. They have to negotiate with us. That's how you run a government. They have refused to do so. They do not want to talk about the healthcare crisis. They do not want to talk about the chaotic spending and actions of this president. They just simply chose to shut down government. Look, I'm here. I am ready to negotiate. We need to have a conversation. We need to understand how each other, and then we can move on. And right now, they're not talking to us.
Republicans say this is the same bill that Democrats signed to extend the government back in March and 13 times before that. What is your argument to that?
That is not true. Look, I've been here a long time, and when we do a continuing resolution, which is basically until we get our appropriation bills done, keep the funding going, it has always been what we call four corners. The House and Senate, Democratic and Republican leadership come together, make an agreement on what we need to do to keep things running temporarily. Always that's been the case until this year. And then in March, the president and the Senate Majority Leader and House Speaker said, we don't want your input. We're just going to do whatever we want to. We have seen the chaos since then. And here we are now, and they still think that they don't have to talk to us. That's not, I represent people in Washington State who deserve to have a voice at this table. And I'm here and I'm ready to go. Let's talk.
So let's talk about the impact specifically to health care, to premiums for American families. What's the impact of the bill that they proposed and the impact of this shutdown?
Well, first of all, what the Republicans have chosen to do is not extend what we call the ACA health tax credits. In Washington State, that means, as our insurance commissioner has told us, a 21% increase to people's health insurance next year. I talked to one family who's spending about $800 a month right now. Their premium increase is going to go to $1,800 a month. They're simply going to drop their insurance. They're still going to show up for their health care. As we now know, everybody else has to pay it. And those insurance bills are coming in the mail right now. So people are going to see the hurt that this is causing. We have said to our Republican counterparts, work with us to extend this tax credit so that the American people do not see these huge health insurance increases, the cost to them personally, and we can make a difference for so many people. And instead of talking to us or working with us, they said, no, we're not going to do it. Look, Joyce, they actually had a chance to do this in July. When they passed their big, beautiful bill, they extended all the other tax credits and tax issues of the President Trump's 2017 bill, except this one. And we're saying we need this tax credit extended so people don't pay more for their extremely a lot more for their health insurance next year.
As you know, the White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said yesterday that this is about, for Democrats, paying for free health care for illegal aliens. And as a result, what Democrats are doing is really impacting America's health care.
Well, I find it really unfortunate that they have to say that. First of all, it's not true. And secondly, why do they keep saying everything is the fault of undocumented workers? The fact is that the ACA tax credit is not for undocumented workers. They cannot use it. Neither is Medicare, neither is Medicaid. So I don't know why they have to delve this up to try and scare people. It's not true.
What is your message to federal workers who are losing not just their income temporarily if they're furloughed, but potentially being laid off?
I say to every one of them, I am working my heart out to get Republicans back to the table to fix this. They have chosen to shut the government down rather than work to solve the problems that are in front of us. So tell your Republican members of Congress, get back to the table. Tell the president, get to the table. Don't scare people. Don't threaten people. Don't, do all kinds of illegal things. Come and talk to people. That's what a democracy is about.
We have more than 80,000 federal workers in the state of Washington, 750,000 plus across the country, who are looking at a great deal of uncertainty depending on how long this runs out. What are you going to do to help them keep their jobs? Is there anything you can do if the president is set on laying off mass federal workers?
Joyce, I am telling them this. I'm at the table. I'm here. I'm ready to work with my Republican counterparts to get government open. The Republicans shut it down. They need to work with us too to get it back open. I want government open. I never wanted to shut down. No one did. But when the Republicans refused to talk to us, they wouldn't even talk to us. They shut the government down. We're here to get it back open. I will do everything I can to make that happen.
Where is there room for compromise? If you see a resolution in the next few days or next week or so, where do you think that compromise could come?
Yeah, I've been talking to a number of my Republican counterparts, and as far as we are concerned, we want to be assured that our appropriations bills, government spending, are done, and the bills are signed into law, and the president follows that law. That is what he's not been doing. He's been choosing to shut down programs and fire people and use the money for his own projects or, red states over blue states. We want those appropriations bills passed because in a bipartisan way, we wrote into the bills that we have passed and put on the table ways to make sure we have guardrails so he can't do that. And that's bipartisan. So obviously this is doable, but we need them to agree to pass them.
The president
on the healthcare, Joyce, simply work with us to get these ACA tax credits extended. They could have done that in July. They could have done it in August. They could have done it in September. They've refused to do it. And now people are getting those bills in the mail. A number of my Republican colleagues are worried about that. Why? A quarter of our farmers in this country rely on the ACA tax credit. Small business people, people without insurance rely on those tax credits, and Republicans know it.
I wanted to bring up Project 2025 because the president posted on social this morning that he's meeting with Russell Vought, a Project 2025 author, something that he denied even knowing about during his campaign. He says that Democrats have given him, quote, an opportunity to slash government agencies. What do you make of that post, and should we be concerned that we're going to see agencies disappear?
Well, first of all, this president operates by threats, scaring people, and by making people think that if they don't come to him and bow to him, then he is going to do horrible things to him. That is not how a president should act. That is not how a democracy should work. And his threats are empty. We know that, and we're at the table. Why? Because not because we want to hurt people, but because we want to help people get those tax credits so they can afford their health insurance.
I also want to talk to you about the president's plans to send federal troops into American cities. As you know, some 200 have just been deployed to Portland. Many believe Seattle is going to be next. What is your plan should that happen here?
Well, obviously, we will look to our state attorney general and the governor for how they want to deal with it. But let me just say this. I have long supported our troops. They are essential for our country's safety and security internationally. We need them focused on their jobs doing that. And to ask these men and women to come and do something that our local police and our local communities should be handling, to me, is a misuse of taxpayer dollars. We could use help from this White House in a number of ways. Violence prevention, all kinds of police programs that we have that he's cut the funding for that. I would assume that's what our mayors would say is much more effective than just sending these troops who should be doing something else. And I just feel like as an American, that's not what I want my troops doing.
And then finally, President Trump also announced just in the last hour that the U.S. is engaged in a, quote, formal armed conflict with terrorist drug cartels. We've already seen boats being attacked in the Caribbean. What does that mean?
I don't know. Does that mean that this president thinks he has unprecedented and illegal power to decide a boat on a water without investigation and without due process he can bomb? That is a scary threat to me.
And finally, Senator Murray, just your final thoughts on the state of things and where we are here in this country with this, what appears to be a total impasse in Congress.
You know, a democracy only works if people listen to each other and trust each other. What this president has done since he has been sworn into office a year ago is to break that trust and to break the ability for us to listen to each other and work with each other. How does he do that? By threatening people, by being obnoxious, by doing unprecedented things. I want my country to work again. I want my democracy to work again. And I want people to listen and talk to each other. And I want this president to be that kind of president that brings us together, not tears us apart. That's what scares me about where we are right now.
Senator Murray, we really appreciate you taking the time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.